Hello everyone and welcome to our CFS weather update on August 3rd, 2025. So as always on Sundays we go through the past four CFS runs just to have a laugh and see what they show for the next 5 or 6 months. Today that gets us to January, and a trend that has been kind of evident over the past few weeks is for quite a warm, dry October, followed by some cold snaps through November and December. So let's see if that trend has kept itself going today, or whether it's just westerly. So yesterday's CFS 12 run is like this. Some florists coming through on Monday, and then beyond that we go briefly dry and brighter, but that's before this next area of low pressure does come in quite quickly. A bit warmer and drier by mid-August, but that is a long shot really. And the last day of August does go dry and brighter towards the end of the month, but the period between the 15th and 25th is quite showery. So September therefore starts off quite warm and dry. It's a classic start to September. It stays warm and dry really, even up to mid-month. So this is a very hot, warm and dry first half to September here. Eventually it starts to break down a little bit. It's still warm but a bit more showery, more cloudy. But even then, by the 22nd, 23rd, the high pressure is back in over the country and to our east. There's warm southerly winds. Starting in October, very wet and windy. But quite quickly, the Azores high does come back. A brief northerly shot on there on the 8th, but that is very short-lived. And in the end, we're just mild and dry for October. Another northerly there by the 19th, but once again, that does quickly fade away. We end October looking wet and windy, really. Halloween looking a bit drier. So starting off then with the 2nd of November going wet and windy. And beyond that, we're briefly drier, a bit milder as well, but it is wet and windy towards mid-month, yeah. A bit colder by the 16th, slight easterly airflow. We keep it very mild, wet and windy right through to the end of the month, and we actually start December looking a bit drier and milder by then. No, there. Okay, so December starting off dry and mild. Goes a bit chillier and more slight by the 4th. A slight easterly airflow, can be a few wintry showers on the east coast, but then the high pressure does come back in. However, it's building into cold air mass. It's building into a cold air mass over the country, so therefore that will bring frost and fog. Beyond that, we do open the floodgates to these very cold northeasterly winds by mid-month, so plenty of snow showers with that, and very cold frosty nights. We get a breakdown there on the 18th of December. That would bring a snow event, but that does reintroduce milder air. So Christmas is actually going to be, on this run, a mixed bag. So we have low pressure trying to come up from the south, battling against blocking to the north and cold air. Probably snow for the north, but in the south it's going to be raining. Before it goes colder everywhere again by after Christmas, and the period up to the New Year is bitterly cold with northeasterly winds and snow showers down along the eastern and northern coasts. And New Year itself is looking cold and wintry. Going to January, for a long cold spell, big blocking towards Greenland, Iceland, up towards Arctic and North Pole, and we're very cold and very wintry into the first half of January. I feel like it happens every day that we see this run. Oh, but it never happens in the end. So here's the CFS 18Z. So the 18Z, once again, some flowers coming through, briefly dry, then wetter again. Again, there's always high for mid-August. Don't know about that. We've been chasing this forever now. Going into the end of August, it stays dry and bright. It's dry and warm, summery. Starting in September, very summery, very warm, very dry. Plenty of high pressure in control. That stays the case until mid-month and beyond in some way, until at least on the 18th of September we see a trough coming through. Beyond that, it stays very warm and dry into late September. This is a new trend of warm and hot September and dry as well. October starts off cool, wet, windy, and it stays quite westerly, but dry in the south there. Why? Anyway, so Then it just goes big high pressure out of the country, mild, dry, warm, whatever it is. And then briefly cooler there around mid-month. Again, it goes dry and warmer for a time again towards the end of the month. A bit wetter and windier for Halloween. For start of November, we're looking quite cool to cold. But that is very quickly swept away by this big area of low pressure, stormy there by the 6th of November. Beyond that, drier. What is the deal? Anyway, so looking drier and milder. I can't really afford an ad blocker, guys. Anyway, so back to it. So a bit colder there by the 18th of November. We keep it westerly then until the end of the month. December starts off showery, mild and dry, quite likely there up to mid-month, then cooler and colder. Christmas period looking a bit interesting, probably quite chilly and wet. But up to New Year, we get this bitterly cold easterly winds, and the beast is unleashed up to the New Year with these bitterly cold easterly winds. And January looks like it will be bitterly cold, at least for the first part of the month, before by mid-month we go a bit milder. And we end up on January 16th going back into a cold spell. Here's the CFS midnight run. Once again, Flores comes through tomorrow, followed by another low on Thursday. No resource high until the 20th, and even that looks a bit flimsy. September starts off dry and warm. It stays very hot up until around the 10th. We get a bit cooler there, but sort of quite dry. Then going quite cool and showery into the last bit of September. October starts off very wet and windy and cold as well for a time with northerly winds. Mid-month sees the high flatness to the south, and therefore we see the westerly winds taking over again. End of the month looks dry and warm for a time before we see low pressure breaking through with a long stretch southwesterly by the 28th of September. Halloween of October even. Halloween is looking probably a bit damp and dreary. Starting off November looking a bit dry and mild, but that quickly does fade away. We end up with westerly winds, deep areas of low pressure to our west. It's westerly, nothing much really happening. A bit briefly colder around the 24th, but that's not much. Starting off December, dry and a bit chilly, I think. Then just yeah, that's mild, but really that depends on the exact placement of the high pressure system. Is right there on the 10th, that's quite chilly, easterly winds, but there on the 9th is mild, southerly winds. Then it just goes a bit bizarre, really, battleground situation, probably quite dreary. I think the first half of December there is quite gloomy, quite cloudy, quite dank, and at times quite chilly as well. Then we get up to the 20th of December, we're going a bit colder with easterly winds. Christmas is a cold one on the midnight run. Have they all been cold so far? I think they have. And we end up going into the New Year period looking cold and wintry, with an area of low pressure trying to come up from the south. And, all sorts of fun games with that until we go past the New Year. It does go milder, wet and windier, but mid-January threatening another cold spell from the east. And finally, CFS six-head run. So we've had three cold Christmases already. Let's see if we can have straight cold Christmases today. Right, so Flores comes through, then a bit drier for a time, then another low. Summer comes back mid-August if that's correct, but only flimsily. So and it doesn't really make it come back really. It just goes to autumn by the end of the month. September starts off dry and warm. Oh yeah, a trend from today's runs is the really, really hot September, I guess. Beyond that, it's a bit cooler for a time around the 15th to 20th, but that lasts for a very short amount of time, and we go back to dry and warm weather by the end of December. October starts off looking dry and mild, stays that way. Very dry autumn, if that's correct, until 21st, we get a bit wetter and windier. So we do see a wetter period towards the end of the month there. Halloween looking a bit drier and finer. Starting off with a dry and mild start to November there. We keep going. High pressure is a big theme on this run, my God. Briefly colder towards the towards the 18th. And we go through, towards the end of the month, we do go colder and more wintry at last. December starting off wet and windy, quite mild. Let's see what happens. Easterly winds around the 10th, bringing in the cold air mass. So 10th gets cold, stays cold till around the 15th or 16th of the month. That is when a warm front and an area of low pressure comes up from the south. Christmas, so we break the streak of the cold Christmases. We go mild for that one. And New Year, up to New Year, is looking quite probably a bit chilly with easterly winds. Not particularly cold though. But we go after the New Year, and it goes properly cold and wintry with northerly winds. And it goes milder by mid-month. So everyone, that is today's CFS long range special. So yeah, same sort of trend, except I think that September is now going to be the hot month, October less so. Still some cold snaps through the winter time. See what happens, you know. But one thing I must say is that a hot September has never ever favoured a cold winter before. That's just food for thought. Because 4 years ago we had a hot September in 21, and then everyone thought that that it would be quite a cold winter for the winter ahead. 21-22, it didn't happen. It tried to come together towards Christmas time, but it just never properly came together. Thanks for watching. I'll see you. Bye for now.